In the deepest corners of the galaxy, where star maps end and legends begin, there exists a truth that would shatter the very foundation of interstellar politics. Humans were never meant to be the galaxy's engineers, farmers, or diplomats. They were designed to be something far more dangerous. Engineer Marcus Chen thought he was just another maintenance worker on a forgotten mining station at the edge of civilized space. He fixed broken life support systems, calibrated gravity generators, and kept the lights on for a crew of aliens who barely acknowledged his existence. Just another human doing what humans do best, solving problems that others couldn't or wouldn't tackle. But, when Marcus stumbled upon a high-security detention cell containing a creature that defied every law of galactic imprisonment, a being so lethal that 3 different star empires had contributed technology just to keep it contained, everything he believed about his place in the universe began to unravel. The creature inside wasn't just any predator. It was a Kethvar, one of the legendary war sentinels whose very existence was considered myth by most of the galaxy. 7 feet of lethal grace, with midnight black fur marked by silver patterns that seemed to shift in the light, fangs that could pierce battle armor, and eyes that burned with an intelligence that had watched civilizations rise and fall. Marcus should have walked away. Should have reported the discovery to station security. Should have minded his own business like every other human in the galaxy had learned to do. Instead, he made a choice that would echo across star systems and awaken something ancient that had been waiting in the dark corners of space, something that had been searching for exactly the right human for exactly the right moment. Because sometimes, when you free a legend, that legend decides you're worth keeping around. And, sometimes, legends remember debts in ways that reshape the very fabric of galactic civilization. The War Sentinel's selection was about to begin. Marcus Chen had been crawling through maintenance tunnels for 3 hours when he found the door that shouldn't exist. The blueprint overlay on his work tablet showed empty space where his headlamp illuminated a seamless metal barrier marked with symbols he'd never seen before. The corridor beyond was supposed to be another routine vent shaft leading to the station's atmospheric recyclers. Instead, he was staring at what looked like a vault door built into the very bones of mining station Kepler 438b. The station hummed around him with the familiar rhythm of 1,000 automated systems. Marcus had spent 2 years learning every sound, every vibration, every quirk of the aging facility. He could diagnose a faulty plasma conduit by the way it made the deck plates vibrate, predict a gravity generator failure hours before the warning lights triggered, and navigate the maintenance passages blindfolded. But this door was new. This door was wrong. Marcus pulled himself out of the tunnel and stood in the narrow service corridor, studying the barrier. The metal was different from the standard titanium steel composite used throughout the station. This was something darker, heavier, with a subtle iridescence that seemed to absorb his headlamp's beam rather than reflect it. The symbols etched into its surface weren't decorative, they pulsed with a faint energy signature that his scanner couldn't identify. His tablet chimed with an incoming message from station supervisor Vextar, a Zoranian whose patience for human inefficiency was legendary throughout the Outer Rim. Chen, atmospheric recycler 3 is showing pressure variations. Fix it. Marcus glanced at his location indicator. He was supposed to be checking recycler 3 right now, but the mysterious door had appeared exactly where that system should be housed. He ran a quick diagnostic through his portable scanner, checking for life support anomalies in this section. Everything showed normal except for the energy signature coming from beyond the door. Copy that, supervisor, Marcus transmitted back. Running diagnostics now. The proper procedure was obvious. Report the anomaly to station security, let the Valerian guards with their plasma rifles and bad attitudes handle whatever classified mess this represented, and go fix Recycler 3 wherever it had actually been relocated. Marcus had learned early in his career that humans who asked too many questions about classified facilities had a tendency to find themselves reassigned to even more remote postings if they found themselves reassigned at all. But Marcus had also learned that atmospheric recyclers didn't just vanish, and maintenance blueprints didn't lie. Something was very wrong with this picture, and his engineering mind refused to let the contradiction go uninvestigated. He approached the door and placed his palm against its surface. The metal was warm, almost body temperature, and seemed to pulse with a rhythm that reminded him of a heartbeat. The symbols brightened at his touch, cycling through a spectrum of colors that made his eyes water. His scanner went wild for a moment, detecting energy signatures that defied classification, before settling back to its normal readings as if nothing had happened. The door remained sealed, but Marcus noticed something else. A small access panel near the base, barely visible unless you were looking for it. Standard human biometric scanner, the kind used on Earth-manufactured equipment throughout the galaxy. That made no sense. Humans weren't trusted with high-security installations. They fixed toilets and recycling systems and maintained the boring infrastructure that kept galactic civilization running smoothly in the background. Marcus knelt and pressed his thumb to the scanner. The device chirped happily and displayed a message in perfect English: "Welcome, authorized personnel. Proceed with caution." The massive door split along invisible seams and retracted into the walls with the whisper-quiet efficiency of technology far beyond anything else on the station. Beyond lay a corridor that stretched further than Marcus's headlamp could illuminate, lined with what looked like detention cells. Emergency lighting activated as he stepped inside, revealing a facility that definitely wasn't supposed to exist. The walls were covered with warning signs in dozens of languages. Marcus recognized Standard Galactic, Valerian battlescript, Zoranian administrative text, and at least 6 others he couldn't identify. The messages were variations on the same theme: maximum security facility, authorized personnel only, use of lethal force authorized, and, his personal favorite, containment breach will result in station sterilization. The cells lining the corridor were empty except for one. The energy field shimmering across its entrance was triple-layered and connected to power conduits that could have supplied a small city. Whatever was inside required enough electricity to run Marcus's entire hometown back on Earth. He approached the active cell and nearly dropped his scanner. The creature inside was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. 7 feet tall even in its relaxed sitting position, with a build that suggested both deadly grace and raw power. Its fur was midnight black with silver patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living metal. The head was distinctly feline but scaled up to nightmare proportions, with fangs that could punch through battle armor and eyes that burned with an intelligence that made Marcus feel like he was being dissected and catalogued. The being's gaze fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made his skin crawl. When it spoke, its voice was a low rumble that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his chest. Human. The word carried weight, as if the creature was tasting something unexpected. How curious. Marcus found his voice after several tries. What are you? The creature's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, revealing more of those intimidating fangs. I am Cathara of the Night Hunt, last of the War Sentinels, and, according to your people's leaders, a threat too dangerous to exist. The being stood with fluid grace, moving to the edge of the containment field. The more interesting question is what you are, little engineer. I'm just maintenance, Marcus said, though he was beginning to suspect that explanation was becoming less accurate by the minute. I was looking for Atmospheric Recycler 3. Cathara's eyes narrowed. Maintenance workers do not have access to this facility. Your leaders have gone to considerable trouble to ensure that even most of their own security forces cannot find this place. Yet here you stand. Marcus looked at his scanner readings, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The containment field was powered by a fusion generator that his blueprints didn't show existing. The cell itself was built from materials his database couldn't identify. The whole facility was a ghost, present but invisible to official records. How long have you been here? Marcus asked. 3 years, 247 days, 18 hours, Cathara replied instantly. I have been counting. What did you do? The War Sentinel's expression shifted to something Marcus couldn't quite read. I honored a treaty your species signed but chose not to remember. I protected human colonies from threats your military could not handle. I fulfilled obligations that your leaders decided were politically inconvenient. Cathara's voice carried bitter amusement. In return, I was declared a rogue asset and imprisoned as a war criminal. Marcus studied the readouts from his scanner. The containment field was sophisticated beyond anything in his experience, but it was also showing signs of stress. Microfluctuations in the power flow, minor variations in field density, tiny imperfections that suggested the system was being pushed beyond its design limits. The containment is failing, Marcus said. Cathara nodded. Very slowly, but yes. Your people built this prison well, but they did not account for what I am. The war sentinel moved closer to the field barrier, close enough that Marcus could see the intricate patterns in the silver markings on dark fur. I am not just another predator species, human. I am a weapon that chooses its own targets. The admission should have terrified Marcus. Instead, he found himself fascinated by the engineering problem the containment system represented. Triple-layered energy fields, quantum locks, biometric scanners, automated defense systems, all of it designed to hold one being who wasn't even trying to escape. Why aren't you fighting it more actively? Marcus asked. Cathera's eyes flashed with something that might have been respect. Because escape without purpose is merely exile. I have been waiting. For what? For someone to find me who might understand what your species has forgotten. Cathera settled back into a sitting position but kept those burning eyes fixed on Marcus. Tell me, engineer, what do you know of the War Sentinel protocols? Marcus shook his head. Nothing. I've never heard of War Sentinels before today. Of course not. Your leaders have worked very hard to erase that particular chapter of human history. Cathera's voice carried a note of sadness. When your species first ventured into the galaxy, they were different. Bolder. Less concerned with fitting into the established order. They made agreements with powers like mine, agreements that came with both privileges and obligations. The War Sentinel stood again and began pacing within the confines of the cell. Marcus found himself tracking the movement, noting the perfect balance and lethal grace of each step. My people are not numerous, Cathera continued. We are weapons, crafted by evolution and circumstance to be perfect hunters. But we are also bound by codes of honor that your species once understood. A War Sentinel chooses a worthy partner, and that partnership becomes sacred. We protect, we hunt, we fight for those we have selected. In return, we are given purpose and companionship. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's climate controls. And humans used to be partners? Some of the best we ever selected, Cathera said with unmistakable pride. Your species possesses qualities that complement our nature perfectly. You solve problems we cannot conceive, you build things we cannot imagine, and, when pressed, you fight with a creativity that impresses even us. The conversation was interrupted by Marcus's tablet chiming with another message from Supervisor Vextar. Chen, Recycler 3 is still showing problems. What is your status? Marcus looked at the readings on his scanner. According to his equipment, atmospheric Recycler 3 was functioning perfectly and was located exactly where it should be in the space currently occupied by a maximum security prison cell containing a legendary predator. Supervisor, Marcus transmitted back, I'm reading normal function on all atmospheric systems. Could we be looking at a sensor malfunction? The reply came back sharp with irritation. Chen, I am looking at pressure warnings and contamination alerts. Fix the problem or I will find someone who can. Marcus stared at his scanner, then at Cathera, then back at his scanner. The readings were consistent and impossible. Atmospheric Recycler 3 was functioning normally while also being completely non-existent. Your supervisors cannot see this place, Cathera observed. Their sensors show them what they expect to see. But you can see through the deception. Why? Marcus asked. Cathera moved to the very edge of the containment field, close enough that Marcus could see the individual silver threads woven through dark fur. Because, little engineer, you are exactly what I have been waiting for. The War Sentinel's eyes blazed with an intensity that made Marcus take an involuntary step backward. Your species has spent decades trying to forget what they once were. They have convinced themselves that humans are meant to be servants and maintenance workers and background support for more important species. They have forgotten that humans were once bold enough to make pacts with legends. Cathera's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than a shout. But I have not forgotten. And neither, I think, have you. Marcus's tablet chimed again with increasingly urgent messages from Supervisor Vextar. The normal world of maintenance schedules and repair orders felt suddenly distant and unreal. He looked at the War Sentinel, at the impossible prison, at his scanner readings that insisted reality was not what it appeared to be.
What happens if I help you escape? Marcus asked.
Cathera's smile was sharp and dangerous and somehow reassuring at the same time. Then, you discover what your species was truly meant to become. Marcus stood in the corridor of a facility that shouldn't exist, staring at a being from galactic legend, while his supervisor demanded he fix a machine that was both perfectly functional and completely absent from reality. The logical choice was clear: report the anomaly, let others handle the situation, go back to his normal life of maintaining other people's equipment. Instead, Marcus found himself studying the containment field projectors, analyzing their power requirements, and thinking like the engineer he had always been.
Every problem had a solution. Every system had a weakness. And every legend, apparently, needed the right human to set it free. Tell me about the containment system, Marcus said.
Cathera's eyes blazed with something that might have been approval.
Now you begin to understand, the War Sentinel rumbled. Very well, little engineer.
Let me explain exactly what your people built to keep me caged, and you can show me what humans do best. Marcus pulled up the diagnostic interface on his scanner and, prepared to do what he had always done, solve the problem nobody else could handle. He just had a feeling that this particular repair job was going to change everything. The containment system was a masterpiece of paranoid engineering. Marcus spent 2 hours mapping its components while Cathera provided commentary that ranged from technical appreciation to sardonic amusement. The War Sentinel had clearly spent considerable time studying the prison that held her, and her knowledge of its weaknesses was encyclopedic. The primary field generator draws power from the station's main fusion core, Cathera explained as Marcus traced power conduits with his scanner. But the engineers who built this were clever. They created 3 independent backup systems, each capable of maintaining containment even if the others fail completely. Marcus nodded, following the branching network of energy feeds that supplied the cell. The design was redundant to the point of obsession. Quantum lock generators, plasma field projectors, gravitic containment arrays, and at least 6 other systems he couldn't immediately identify all worked together to create a prison that could theoretically hold a small star. They were afraid of you, Marcus observed. Terrified, Cathera agreed with evident satisfaction. The last time a War Sentinel escaped from custody, it took 12 battlecruisers and a planetary defense grid to recapture them. Even then, the Sentinel chose to surrender rather than continue the fight. Her eyes gleamed with dangerous humor. I am considerably more capable than my predecessor. Marcus's scanner beeped with an anomaly reading. One of the secondary power conduits showed signs of stress fracturing, microscopic flaws in the crystalline matrix that conducted energy to the quantum locks. The damage was invisible to casual inspection but would eventually compromise the system's integrity. How long have you been working on this? Marcus asked, indicating the fracture pattern. 3 years, 247 days, 18 hours, Cathera replied. I cannot break the containment through brute force, but I can encourage it to break itself. Every breath I take, every movement I make, creates minute vibrations at precisely the right frequencies to stress the crystalline matrices. Given enough time, the entire system will develop cascade failures. Marcus ran calculations in his head, estimating the rate of crystal degradation against the backup system's capacity to compensate. You're looking at another 2 years minimum before natural failure. Optimistically, Cathera said. The builders were thorough in their paranoia. Marcus studied the readings more carefully. The containment system was sophisticated, but it followed principles he understood. Energy had to flow through specific pathways, quantum fields required precise calibration, and all of it depended on components that operated within defined parameters. Every system had a weakness. Usually multiple weaknesses. What if we don't wait for natural failure? Marcus asked. Cathera's attention sharpened. Explain. Marcus highlighted several power junction points on his scanner display. The system is designed to handle gradual degradation and single-point failures. But, if multiple critical components failed simultaneously, the automatic repair protocols would be overwhelmed. The builders anticipated sabotage, Cathera warned. Any attempt to damage the containment directly triggers lethal countermeasures. I'm not talking about damage, Marcus said, his engineer's mind working through the possibilities.
I'm talking about optimization.
He pulled up the maintenance protocols for the containment system and felt a familiar satisfaction as the solution became clear. The designers had built their prison to handle everything except the one threat they hadn't considered: a human maintenance engineer doing his job. The quantum lock generators are running at 87% efficiency, Marcus explained.
Standard protocol for systems operating below 90% is to recalibrate the harmonic frequencies. The recalibration process requires a brief shutdown of the quantum field while new parameters are established.
Cathera's eyes widened slightly.
And, during that shutdown? The system relies on secondary containment only.
Which means if the gravitic array also needed recalibration at exactly the same moment,
the plasma fields would be handling full containment alone, Cathera finished. And, plasma fields cannot contain something they cannot target.
Marcus felt the familiar thrill of solving an impossible problem.
War sentinels can phase shift, can't they? I've read theoretical papers about quantum state manipulation in biological systems.
We can indeed, Cathera said, and Marcus could hear approval in the War Sentinel's voice. For approximately 30 seconds before the process begins causing cellular damage. 30 seconds is plenty of time to get through a plasma field barrier, Marcus said.
He began accessing the maintenance schedules for the various containment systems.
The quantum locks were due for recalibration in 6 months. The gravitic array had been optimized recently and wouldn't need adjustment for another year.
The plasma field generators were functioning at 96% efficiency and had no scheduled maintenance.
But Marcus was a certified maintenance engineer with override authority for emergency repairs.
If he detected problems that required immediate attention,
I need you to create some specific resonance patterns, Marcus told Cathera.
Nothing that will trigger the alarm systems, just enough to create harmonic interference in the plasma generators.
Cathera settled into a crouch and began producing a low, thrumming sound that seemed to originate from somewhere deep in her chest. Marcus watched his scanner readings as the sound waves propagated through the cell structure.
The plasma field generators began showing efficiency drops as their containment matrices encountered unexpected interference.
Perfect, Marcus muttered, documenting the readings on his tablet. Efficiency down to 89%.
That's enough to justify emergency recalibration.
His tablet chimed with another message from Supervisor Vextar.
Chen, I am receiving reports of energy fluctuations in Section 7. Are you conducting unauthorized maintenance?
Marcus looked at his location indicator. Section 7 was apparently where the universe thought he was standing, even though his scanner insisted Section 7 was 3 levels above them and contained nothing more interesting than a waste processing plant. Negative, Supervisor, Marcus transmitted back.
Just running standard diagnostics.
I'm detecting some harmonic resonance in the atmospheric systems that might explain the pressure variations you're seeing. The reply came back immediately.
Fix it quickly.
We have a security inspection scheduled for next shift. Marcus felt cold certainty settle in his stomach. A security inspection would involve teams of armed guards conducting detailed scans of every inch of the station. There was no way the hidden facility would remain hidden if Valerian security forces started looking for the source of energy anomalies.
We're out of time, Marcus told Cathera. Security inspection next shift.
They'll find this place. Cathera's expression grew dangerously still.
And, when they do, they will implement Protocol 7.
Which is complete sterilization of the facility and everyone in it, Cathera said quietly. My people and yours made many agreements over the centuries, but we also made many enemies. There are species in this galaxy who would consider my recapture worth any price, including the lives of everyone on this station. Marcus thought about the 300 beings who lived and worked on mining station Kepler 438b. Mostly aliens, true, but they were people trying to make a living in a difficult and dangerous profession. They didn't deserve to die because he had stumbled onto something classified. More importantly, they didn't deserve to die because other people had made decisions about what humans were allowed to know about their own history.
Then, we do this now, Marcus said.
He began initiating emergency maintenance protocols on the containment systems. The quantum lock generators accepted his authorization and began their recalibration cycle with the obedient efficiency of machines designed to make life easier for maintenance personnel. The gravitic array was more resistant, but Marcus's scanner had detected genuine harmonic stress in the crystalline matrices, stress that Cathara had been carefully creating for over 3 years. The system accepted his emergency recalibration request after a brief delay.
The plasma field generators were the critical component.
Marcus needed them to begin their optimization cycle at precisely the right moment, creating a 30-second window when only non-physical barriers contained the War Sentinel.
How long do you need to phase shift through the barrier? Marcus asked.
Less than 5 seconds if I move immediately, Cathara replied.
She was already moving into position, muscles coiled for explosive action.
Marcus watched the countdown timers on his tablet. Quantum locks would disengage in 30 seconds. Gravitic array recalibration would begin in 45 seconds. He needed to time the plasma field optimization to create the perfect window. 15 seconds, Marcus announced.
Cathara's form began to shimmer, taking on a translucent quality that made Marcus's eyes water. The War Sentinel was phasing partially out of normal spacetime, becoming something that existed between dimensions.
10 seconds.
The quantum locks disengaged with a harmonic chime that Marcus felt in his bones.
The containment cell's primary restraint system was offline for recalibration. 5 seconds.
Marcus initiated emergency optimization on the plasma field generators. The system protested briefly, noting that efficiency was still within acceptable parameters, but his override authority took precedence.
Now, Marcus said. Cathara moved like liquid lightning.
One moment she was crouched inside the containment cell, the next she was flowing through the plasma barriers as if they were smoke. Marcus watched in fascination as the War Sentinel's form solidified in the corridor beside him, 7 feet of lethal grace suddenly, occupying space that had been empty an instant before. The alarms began screaming immediately. Emergency lights bathed the corridor in crimson warning flashes as the containment system detected the breach and began implementing automated countermeasures.
Blast doors slammed shut at both ends of the corridor, sealing them into the detention facility. Armed security drones deployed from hidden alcoves, their weapons tracking toward Cathara with mechanical precision.
The War Sentinel moved before the targeting systems could lock on. Marcus found himself pressed against the corridor wall as Cathara flowed past him, striking the first drone with claws that punched through military-grade armor like it was paper. The second drone managed to fire once, its plasma bolt scorching the air where the War Sentinel had been standing a microsecond earlier, before Cathara's kick sent it crashing into the wall hard enough to leave an impact crater. The remaining drones never had a chance.
Cathara dismantled them with surgical precision, each movement flowing into the next with deadly economy.
Within 10 seconds, the corridor was filled with sparking wreckage and the acrid smell of burned electronics.
Impressive security system, Cathara observed, apparently not even breathing hard. Though I noticed they designed it to contain, not to kill. Someone wanted me alive.
Marcus's tablet was buzzing with increasingly frantic messages from Supervisor Vexstar and the station's security chief.
According to their sensors, Section 7 was experiencing catastrophic system failures that somehow weren't affecting any actual equipment.
They're going to send teams to investigate, Marcus said, reading the latest updates.
Full security sweep of the entire station. Cathara nodded grimly. Which means we have perhaps 20 minutes before they implement sterilization protocols.
She looked at Marcus with those burning eyes.
I gave you a choice, little engineer. You could have walked away. Why didn't you?
Marcus thought about the question while alarms screamed around them. He could have reported the anomaly and gone back to his routine maintenance duties. He could have pretended the hidden facility didn't exist and continued fixing other people's equipment for the rest of his career. But he was an engineer. Engineers solved problems. And the biggest problem Marcus could see was a galactic civilization that had convinced his entire species to accept a subordinate role based on lies and selective historical amnesia. Because someone needs to remember what humans used to be capable of, Marcus said.
And maybe what we could be again.
Cathara's smile was sharp and pleased and somehow proud. Then, we understand each other perfectly. The war sentinel moved to the sealed blast door blocking their exit.
Now let me show you what a proper partnership looks like.
Cathara placed her hands against the blast door's surface and began to shimmer again, her form taking on that translucent, between dimensions quality. But, this time, instead of phasing through the barrier, she seemed to be pushing her phased state into the door itself. Marcus watched in fascination as the molecular structure of the blast door began to destabilize, solid matter becoming increasingly uncertain about its own existence. The door is locked from the outside, Cathara explained conversationally while reality bent around her hands.
But, locks only work if the door maintains its structural integrity. The blast door collapsed into component atoms with a sound like breaking glass.
Beyond lay the service corridor where Marcus had been working what felt like hours ago but had actually been less than 30 minutes.
We need to get to the main computer core, Marcus said. If I can access the station's records, I might be able to find out who built that facility and why.
Cathara nodded. And I need to retrieve my equipment.
Your people were thorough when they imprisoned me, but they made the mistake of storing my gear instead of destroying it.
They moved through the maintenance passages with Marcus leading and Cathara flowing behind him like a deadly shadow. The war sentinel's presence made the familiar corridors feel different, charged with potential and danger in equal measure. Marcus's tablet showed security teams mobilizing throughout the station. Heavy military units were being deployed to investigate the system failures in Section 7, while technical crews worked to diagnose problems that existed only as sensor ghosts.
They're going to figure out something is wrong, Marcus said.
Yes, Cathara agreed. The question is whether we can find what we need before they realize what they're actually dealing with. They reached a junction where the maintenance passage intersected with one of the station's main corridors. Marcus checked his tablet's security feed. 3 Valerian guards were conducting a patrol sweep just around the corner, their plasma rifles held at ready position.
I can handle them without killing, Cathara offered quietly.
Marcus shook his head.
If guards start turning up unconscious, they'll know there's an intruder.
Better if they don't see us at all. He pulled up the station's environmental controls and began rerouting atmospheric flow through the main corridor. A minor pressure differential, just enough to trigger the automated fog suppressors designed to clear visibility during emergency situations. Instead of clearing the air, Marcus reversed the system's polarity.
The main corridor filled with dense, obscuring mist within seconds.
The guards' voices carried through the fog, confused but not yet alarmed. They would investigate the malfunction, but it would take time to trace the cause back to Marcus's modifications. Marcus and Cathara slipped through the fog-shrouded corridor like ghosts, the war sentinel moving with such fluid silence that Marcus found himself checking periodically to make sure she was still there. They reached the main computer core without encountering any more patrols, but Marcus could hear activity increasing throughout the station. Security teams were being deployed in growing numbers, and his tablet showed that Supervisor Vextar was demanding answers about the mysterious system failures that were spreading through Section 7.
How long before they realize the truth? Marcus asked as he began accessing the station's central database. Cathara was studying the computer core with intense interest. Longer than you might expect.
My imprisonment here was known to perhaps a dozen individuals, none of whom were stationed on this facility. The guards who delivered me were memory wiped afterward, and the construction crews who built the detention cell were eliminated.
Marcus felt sick. Eliminated?
Your leaders take no chances when it comes to maintaining their version of history, Cathara said grimly. They have convinced the galaxy that humans are naturally suited for support roles, maintenance work, and technological problem-solving. The idea that your species once produced warriors capable of standing alongside war sentinels is politically inconvenient. Marcus accessed the construction records for the hidden facility. The files were heavily encrypted, but his maintenance authorization gave him backdoor access to most of the station's systems. What he found made him understand why security was so tight around this particular secret.
The detention facility hadn't been built by any single government or species.
It was a joint project involving the Valerian Empire, the Zoranian Trade Federation, and at least 4 other major galactic powers. They had cooperated on this project despite being political rivals in almost every other arena. They were all afraid of you, Marcus realized.
Not just afraid of me, Cathara corrected. afraid of what I represent. I am proof that humans were once much more than they have allowed themselves to become. The computer files revealed more disturbing details. The War Sentinel program hadn't ended with Cathera's imprisonment.
According to the records, there were at least 6 other Sentinels scattered throughout the galaxy, all of them held in similar secret facilities. Some had been captured, others had surrendered when their human partners died, and a few had simply vanished when the political climate made their existence inconvenient.
But the most disturbing revelation was in the project's ultimate objective.
The various galactic powers weren't just containing the War Sentinels, they were studying them. Learning how the partnerships worked, how humans and Sentinels bonded, and, most importantly, how to prevent such partnerships from forming again. They're not just hiding history, Marcus said, reading through files that made his blood run cold.
They're actively working to make sure it never repeats. Cathera had moved to a storage terminal and was accessing inventory records. Which is why my equipment is stored in the station's high-security vault instead of being destroyed.
They want to understand how War Sentinel technology integrates with human systems.
Marcus looked up from the computer terminal. Your equipment integrates with humans?
Cathera's smile was sharp and dangerous. Little engineer, you have freed me from a prison that was supposed to be impossible to escape. You have demonstrated the same problem-solving instincts and fearless innovation that made your ancestors such effective partners for my kind.
Did you think I would leave our association as a simple rescue operation?
The War Sentinel's eyes blazed with an intensity that made Marcus's heart race.
The selection process begins now.
The high-security vault was located in the station's core, protected by layers of security that would have challenged a military assault team. Marcus and Cathera reached it by following maintenance tunnels that weren't supposed to exist, through sections of the station that official blueprints showed as solid wall.
How do you know about these passages?
Marcus asked as they crawled through a particularly narrow conduit.
I memorized the complete station layout during my imprisonment, Cathera replied.
War Sentinels are patient hunters.
We study our environment thoroughly before taking action.
Marcus's tablet showed security teams converging on the hidden detention facility. They had discovered the destroyed blast door and were beginning to realize that their mysterious system failures might have a more serious explanation than equipment malfunction. "Contact Station Command immediately," came Supervisor Vextar's voice over the security channel.
"We need military support.
Something has breached the classified facility." "What classified facility?" came the confused reply from the duty officer. Marcus listened to the increasingly frantic exchanges as station personnel tried to explain the existence of a detention block that wasn't supposed to exist to superiors who had no knowledge of its construction. The confusion would buy them time, but not much. They emerged from the maintenance tunnel into a storage bay that served as the vault's outer perimeter. The actual high-security storage was behind barriers that made the containment cell look primitive by comparison. Quantum locks, plasma barriers, gravitic fields, molecular scanners, and at least a dozen other defensive systems all stood between them and whatever was stored inside. "This is going to be significantly more difficult than the cell," Marcus observed.
Cathera studied the security array with professional interest. "Actually, it will be easier.
The detention cell was designed to keep me contained indefinitely.
This vault is designed to keep intruders out temporarily long enough for security forces to respond.
The builders assumed that anyone who reached this point would be discovered long before they could bypass the defenses." Marcus pulled up his diagnostic scanner and began analyzing the vault's defensive systems. The technology was impressive, but it followed the same basic principles as any other security installation. Energy flowed through predictable pathways, sensors operated within defined parameters, and automated responses followed programmed protocols. More importantly, the entire system was connected to the station's main computer network for monitoring and maintenance purposes. And Marcus had full administrative access to the station's infrastructure.
"Can you give me 15 minutes without triggering any alarms?" Marcus asked. Cathera's form began to shimmer as she partially phased out of normal space. "I can do better than that.
I can make us invisible to their sensors entirely." Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation as Cathera's phasing field extended to include him. The world around him took on a translucent, dreamlike quality where solid matter looked uncertain and energy fields appeared as visible streams of light.
"This is incredible," Marcus breathed, watching Quantum Lock's pulse with colors his normal vision couldn't perceive. "Phase shifting allows perception across multiple dimensional layers," Cathara explained.
Most security systems operate in only 3 dimensions. When you can see the 4th and 5th dimensions, finding gaps in their coverage becomes much simpler. Marcus accessed the vault's control systems while Cathara navigated them through security barriers that couldn't detect targets existing partially outside normal spacetime. The experience was disorienting but exhilarating, like being able to see the hidden structure underlying reality itself.
The vault's interior was larger than Marcus had expected, filled with storage containers labeled in languages he didn't recognize.
Most of the equipment was alien technology, weapons, sensors, communication devices, and other hardware from species he had never encountered. But, in the center of the chamber sat a single container marked with human writing. "War Sentinel Equipment Package Authorized Personnel Only." Cathara moved toward the container with obvious anticipation. 3 years, 247 days, 18 hours, she murmured. "I have missed my gear." The container opened at Cathara's touch, revealing equipment that looked like nothing Marcus had ever seen. The individual components appeared to be made from the same dark, iridescent material as the detention facility's door, but these pieces pulsed with contained energy and seemed to respond to the War Sentinel's presence.
Cathara began removing items from the container with reverent care.
A form-fitting armor suit that looked like it had been grown rather than manufactured.
Weapons that shifted configuration as she handled them.
Communication devices that hummed with harmonics Marcus could feel in his bones. War Sentinel equipment bonds with its user, Cathara explained as she began putting on the armor.
But it also bonds with their partner.
The technology is designed to integrate human problem-solving capabilities with Sentinel hunting instincts.
Marcus watched in fascination as the armor flowed over Cathara's form like liquid metal, adapting to her physiology and enhancing her already impressive capabilities. Energy readings on his scanner spiked as systems activated and began coordinating with each other. But the most remarkable component was what Cathara lifted from the bottom of the container. It looked like a combination of bracelet, computer interface, and weapon all merged into a single device that seemed to recognize Marcus's presence and pulse with increasing intensity as he approached. "What is that?" Marcus asked.
"You're half of the partnership," Cathara replied. War Sentinel technology is symbiotic. It requires both participants to function at full capacity.
Marcus stared at the device.
It was beautiful in the same way that perfectly engineered machinery was beautiful, every component serving a purpose, every design choice optimized for function. But there was something else about it, something that made his engineer's instincts respond with recognition and approval.
"It's alive," Marcus realized. "Semi-alive," Cathara corrected.
War Sentinel technology exists at the intersection of biological and mechanical systems. It grows, it learns, it adapts to its users' needs and capabilities. Marcus reached toward the device and felt it respond to his proximity. Energy patterns shifted across its surface, configurations cycling through options as it attempted to interface with his nervous system and determine his specifications.
"If I put this on, what happens?" Cathara's expression grew serious. "You become something more than human."
The device will enhance your reflexes, expand your sensory capabilities, integrate your consciousness with advanced tactical and engineering databases. You will be able to interface directly with any technology we encounter and modify it according to our needs. Marcus looked at the device, then at Cathara, then at his tablet showing security forces mobilizing throughout the station. The rational choice was clear. He was a maintenance engineer who had accidentally stumbled into a situation far beyond his qualifications. He should find a way to escape quietly, let others handle the larger implications, and return to his simple life of fixing other people's equipment. But Marcus had been making rational choices his entire career, and where had it gotten him? Relegated to the edges of galactic civilization, maintaining systems for people who barely acknowledged his existence, accepting that humans were naturally suited for support roles and background functions.
Maybe it was time to make an irrational choice. Marcus slipped the device onto his wrist.
The integration was instantaneous and overwhelming. Marcus felt his consciousness expand as the War Sentinel technology interfaced with his nervous system, uploading databases of information directly into his brain. Engineering principles from a dozen species, weapon specifications, tactical protocols, and, most importantly, the complete history of human Sentinel partnerships dating back over 2 centuries. Marcus saw the truth that galactic civilization had worked so hard to hide.
Humans hadn't started as maintenance workers and support personnel.
They had been explorers, innovators, warriors who solved problems that other species couldn't handle and fought battles that others couldn't win. The partnership with War Sentinels had been one of humanity's greatest achievements until it became politically inconvenient.
The selection is complete, Cathara said, and Marcus could hear satisfaction in her voice. You are now my partner, Marcus Chen. Together, we are something that the galaxy has tried very hard to forget.
Marcus looked at his hands and saw data streams flowing across his vision, analyzing the molecular structure of everything he touched. His scanner had become redundant, he could now perceive energy patterns, structural weaknesses, and system vulnerabilities directly through enhanced senses. This is incredible, Marcus said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated with Cathara's equipment.
This is only the beginning, Cathara replied.
War Sentinel partnerships grow stronger with time and experience.
What you are feeling now is the baseline. Our true capabilities emerge under pressure. Marcus's enhanced perception detected movement in the corridors outside the vault.
Security teams were approaching with military-grade scanning equipment and enough firepower to level half the station.
Speaking of pressure, Marcus said. Cathara nodded grimly.
They will implement sterilization protocols the moment they confirm what has happened.
We have perhaps 10 minutes before this entire station is vaporized to prevent news of my escape from spreading.
Marcus felt the War Sentinel technology analyzing tactical options and providing him with information he shouldn't have been able to access. Station defense grids, evacuation procedures, communication arrays, and, most importantly, the hidden systems that controlled the sterilization protocols. I can disable the sterilization systems, Marcus said, surprised by his own certainty.
But, it will require direct access to the station's core computer.
Which is located in the command center, Cathara observed.
Surrounded by the station's entire security force.
Marcus smiled, feeling tactical subroutines activate in his enhanced consciousness.
Then, I guess we'll have to go through them.
Cathara's answering smile was sharp and pleased.
Now you begin to think like a proper partner.
They left the vault through a maintenance passage that Marcus had never noticed before but now recognized as a tactical route designed by whoever had constructed the station's hidden systems. The War Sentinel equipment provided him with complete blueprints, security protocols, and personnel rosters for the entire facility. The station has 312 inhabitants, Marcus reported as they moved through corridors that were about to become a battlefield. 47 security personnel, 12 administration staff, and the rest are technical workers and miners.
Civilian evacuation should be our priority, Cathara agreed.
But first we need to prevent the sterilization protocols from activating. Marcus accessed the station's communication system and began broadcasting on all channels.
This is Emergency Protocol 7. All non-essential personnel report to evacuation pods immediately.
This is not a drill. The response was immediate chaos. Throughout the station, workers began moving toward emergency stations while security teams tried to determine who had issued the evacuation order. Marcus used his administrative access to lock down internal communications, preventing security from coordinating their response effectively.
Clever, Cathara observed. Create confusion while appearing to follow proper procedures.
Humans are good at bureaucratic warfare, Marcus replied, feeling tactical databases providing him with strategies he had never learned.
Sometimes the best way to fight a system is to use the system against itself.
They reached the command center's outer perimeter to find it heavily defended by Valerian guards in full combat armor. The security chief, a massive reptilian humanoid named Orcs, was coordinating defensive positions while trying to establish communication with off-station authorities.
Unknown intruders have breached the classified facility, Orcs was reporting.
Requesting immediate military support and authorization for Protocol 7 implementation. Marcus felt cold certainty settle in his enhanced awareness.
Protocol 7 was the sterilization order. Once authorized, the station's reactor would be overloaded and the entire facility would be destroyed, eliminating all evidence of the War Sentinel program along with everyone aboard.
"We need to stop that authorization," Marcus said. Cathara was already moving, her form shifting into the predatory crouch that preceded violence.
"Leave the guards to me. You handle the technical systems."
"Wait," Marcus said, tactical programs providing him with a better option.
"We don't have to fight them."
He accessed the station's life support systems and began implementing what appeared to be standard emergency procedures. Atmospheric analyzers throughout the command center began detecting trace amounts of a sleeping gas that didn't actually exist. Automatic safety protocols activated, sealing the command center and flooding it with what the system believed was a neutralizing agent but was actually just regular air with a different scent additive. The guards' armor detected the contamination and activated their emergency life support systems. Within minutes, their suit air supplies were depleted and they were forced to remove their helmets to breathe the neutralized atmosphere. The sleeping gas Marcus had never actually released knocked them unconscious immediately because their suit computers told them it should. Psychological warfare through system manipulation, Cathara observed with approval. "Your species' approach to combat is wonderfully devious." Marcus felt a warm satisfaction that had nothing to do with engineering accomplishment. For the first time in his life, he was using his abilities for something more significant than fixing broken equipment for people who didn't appreciate his work. They entered the command center to find Security Chief Crox unconscious at his communication station, his transmission to higher authorities interrupted mid-sentence. Marcus accessed the station's main computer while Cathara stood guard, her enhanced senses monitoring for threats. The sterilization protocols were more sophisticated than Marcus had expected. They weren't just a reactor overload, they were a complete erasure system designed to eliminate every trace of the station's existence. Computer files would be wiped, physical structures would be vaporized, and even the space debris would be collected and disposed of. "They really don't want anyone to know about this place," Marcus muttered as he worked to disable the protocols.
"The War Sentinel program represents everything your leaders want the galaxy to forget about humanity," Cathara replied.
"Evidence of human capability beyond maintenance and support roles threatens the political arrangement that keeps your species subordinate." Marcus felt anger building in his enhanced consciousness, anger at decades of wasted potential, at a civilization that had convinced his people they were meant to be servants, at leaders who had traded human greatness for political convenience. But anger, the War Sentinel technology reminded him, was a tool to be used strategically. Marcus began uploading the complete records of the detention facility, the War Sentinel program, and the political conspiracy that had hidden human potential from the galaxy. He copied the files to every communication array, every data storage system, and every network node he could access.
"What are you doing?" Cathara asked.
"Making sure the secret doesn't stay secret," Marcus replied.
"If they want to sterilize this station, they're welcome to try."
But the truth is already spreading through every communication network in this sector. Marcus initiated broadcast protocols that would transmit the complete data package to news networks, government databases, and private communication systems throughout the galaxy. The information would reach human colonies, alien governments, and independent organizations within hours. "The galaxy is about to remember what humans used to be capable of," Marcus said.
"And they're going to learn what we could become again." Cathara's smile was fierce and proud.
"Now you understand what true partnership means, Marcus Chen.
We do not simply solve problems, we reshape the universe to eliminate the problems entirely."
Alarms began screaming throughout the station as off-station authorities detected the massive data breach and realized that sterilization protocols were no longer an option. The information was already spreading too widely to contain. Marcus felt satisfaction flow through his enhanced awareness as tactical programs provided him with updated threat assessments. The immediate danger to the station was over, but their larger mission was just beginning.
"What happens now?" Marcus asked.
Cathara moved to the command center's main display and activated star charts showing the locations of the other imprisoned War Sentinels.
"Now we collect the rest of my people and their partners." The galaxy tried to end the War Sentinel program by hiding the truth about human potential.
The War Sentinel's eyes blazed with dangerous anticipation.
Time to show them what a mistake that was.
The reaction to Marcus's data broadcast was swift and catastrophic for the conspirators who had hidden the War Sentinel program. Within 6 hours, the information had reached every major news network, government database, and private communication system in the galaxy. Human colonies that had accepted their support role in galactic civilization suddenly had access to historical records showing their ancestors as explorers and warriors. Alien governments discovered that their human populations possessed capabilities they had systematically suppressed for decades. Marcus and Cathara monitored the galaxy-wide chaos from the captured command center while station personnel completed their evacuation. The conspiracy to hide human potential was unraveling in real time as suppressed documents surfaced, classified facilities were exposed, and the locations of imprisoned war sentinels became public knowledge. 17 major human colonies have declared independence in the last 4 hours, Marcus reported, watching news feeds scroll across his enhanced vision.
3 more are demanding reparations for decades of systematic oppression. Cathara studied tactical displays showing the locations of her imprisoned fellow sentinels.
And the facilities holding my people are being overwhelmed by liberation forces. Humans who discovered their heritage are not accepting the imprisonment of their potential partners. The station's communication array crackled with incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. Government officials demanded explanations, military commanders requested orders, and, most importantly, human voices began reaching out from colonies that had never imagined they were part of something larger than individual survival. "This is Colony Ship New Horizon calling any War Sentinel frequency," came one transmission.
"We have 43,000 humans aboard and we just learned what we used to be capable of. Are any Sentinels available for partnership?"
Priority message for liberated War Sentinels, came another.
"This is the Kepler Mining Consortium. We have humans who want to reclaim their heritage.
Please respond if you need technical support or engineering assistance." Marcus felt something he had never experienced before: pride in belonging to a species that was remembering its true nature. The War Sentinel technology enhanced his emotional responses along with his physical capabilities, and the sensation of connection with humans across the galaxy was intoxicating. "They're waking up," Marcus said with wonder. 300 years of suppression, and it took less than a day for humans to remember what they used to be.
Cathara's expression held satisfaction mixed with something deeper.
"Your species was never meant for the subordinate role you were forced to accept. War Sentinels choose our partners based on compatibility, and we chose humans because you possess qualities that complement our nature perfectly.
Courage, innovation, the ability to solve impossible problems, these are not support characteristics."
The station's proximity alarms activated as ships began arriving in the system. Marcus expected military vessels or government forces attempting to contain the situation. Instead, his enhanced senses detected a mixture of human colony ships, independent freighters, and, most surprisingly, alien vessels broadcasting messages of support.
"This is the Andromedan Science Collective," came a transmission from one of the alien ships. "We have monitored the revelations about human capabilities with great interest.
We formally request partnerships with any available human Sentinel teams for deep space exploration missions."
Marcus looked at Cathara in amazement. "Other species want to work with us?"
"Of course they do," Cathara replied. "The political conspiracy that suppressed human potential also prevented the galaxy from benefiting from human Sentinel partnerships. There are exploration projects, research missions, and security operations that have been stalled for decades because no one else could handle them." More ships continued to arrive, and Marcus began to understand the true scope of what they had unleashed. The War Sentinel program hadn't been ended because it was dangerous, it had been ended because it was too successful. Human Sentinel teams had been solving problems that entire governments couldn't handle, opening regions of space that others couldn't explore, and generally demonstrating that humanity's potential was far greater than the support role they had been assigned. "We need to get moving," Cathara said, studying the tactical situation. "My fellow Sentinels are being liberated, but they will need time to reconnect with human partners and integrate their equipment.
Until then, they are vulnerable."
Marcus accessed the shipping schedules for vessels arriving in the system. The colony ship New Horizon has requested permission to dock.
"They're claiming mechanical difficulties that require human engineering support." Cathera's smile was sharp with understanding. Mechanical difficulties that happen to require consultation with the only human Sentinel team currently active in this sector?
It's a remarkably convenient coincidence, Marcus agreed. They transferred to the colony ship through a docking tube that was definitely not designed for routine maintenance operations. The moment Marcus stepped aboard New Horizon, his enhanced senses were overwhelmed by the presence of 43,000 humans who were just discovering their species' hidden heritage.
The ship's engineering chief, a woman named Sarah Kim, met them at the airlock with barely contained excitement.
Marcus Chen? The engineer who exposed the War Sentinel conspiracy?
Marcus felt uncomfortable with the sudden celebrity status.
I just did what any engineer would do. I solved a problem. You solved the problem, Sarah corrected. Do you have any idea what it's like to discover that your entire species has been living a lie? That we're capable of so much more than anyone told us?
Cathera stepped forward, and Marcus watched Sarah's expression change as she got her first close look at a War Sentinel. The Predator's grace, the obvious intelligence, the sense of barely contained power, it was both terrifying and magnificent.
I am Cathera of the Night Hunt, the War Sentinel said formally. I understand your ship requires engineering consultation? Sarah's grin was answer enough.
We have 43,000 people who just learned they might be capable of partnering with legendary warriors. We also have mechanical problems that our current engineering staff can't solve and a deep space exploration mission that's been waiting for exactly the right technical expertise. Marcus felt the War Sentinel technology analyzing the ship's systems and providing him with information about modifications that would be required for the kind of missions human Sentinel teams typically undertook. Enhanced engines, improved defensive systems, expanded sensor arrays, and, most importantly, equipment bays designed to accommodate Sentinel technology.
We can help with the mechanical problems, Marcus said.
But the exploration mission will have to wait until we've dealt with the larger situation.
Sarah's expression grew serious. The imprisoned Sentinels?
Cathera nodded.
6 of my people remain in facilities similar to the one Marcus liberated me from. They will need rescue operations conducted by teams capable of handling the security measures involved. And those security measures were designed to stop War Sentinels, Marcus added.
Which means they're going to require human engineering solutions combined with Sentinel capabilities. Sarah looked between them with growing understanding.
You're forming a task force.
We're reclaiming our heritage, Marcus corrected.
Humans and War Sentinels working together the way we were meant to.
But we need humans who are ready to be more than maintenance workers and support personnel. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, Marcus found himself coordinating with engineering teams, tactical specialists, and pilots who were eager to prove that humanity's potential had never been limited to background roles. The War Sentinel technology helped him interface with ship systems, coordinate complex modifications, and plan operations that would have challenged military strike teams. But the most remarkable development was watching humans discover capabilities they had never known they possessed. Enhanced by proximity to War Sentinel technology and freed from the psychological constraints that had limited their thinking, the crew of New Horizon began solving problems and implementing innovations at a rate that impressed even Cathera. Your people are remembering quickly, the War Sentinel observed as they watched engineering teams install modifications that would have taken weeks to complete using standard procedures.
We never forgot, Marcus replied, feeling the truth of it through his enhanced awareness.
We just stopped believing we were allowed to remember.
The first rescue mission launched 18 hours after the New Horizon docked at mining station Kepler 438b. Marcus and Cathera led a team of 30 humans and 2 War Sentinels who had been liberated from other facilities, targeting a maximum security installation in the Valerian Empire's core systems. The facility was a fortress in space, surrounded by battlecruisers and defended by security measures that made the mining station's detention cell look primitive. But it had been designed to handle conventional military assault, not a coordinated attack by human Sentinel teams using tactics that the galaxy had forgotten existed.
Marcus watched through enhanced senses as the assault unfolded with surgical precision.
Human engineering teams disabled defensive systems using methods that the station's designers had never anticipated, while War Sentinels flowed through security barriers like liquid death. The combination was devastatingly effective. Humans identified weaknesses that Sentinels could exploit, while Sentinels provided capabilities that humans could direct and enhance. The imprisoned War Sentinel, a massive male called Thekron of the Steel Winds, was extracted from his containment cell within 20 minutes of the assault beginning. His reunion with human partners was delayed only by the need to retrieve his equipment from the facility's vault and evacuate the station's civilian personnel. 5 more facilities remain, Cathara reported as they returned to New Horizon with their rescued colleague. Marcus studied the tactical displays showing the locations of the remaining prisons. Each one was more heavily defended than the last, and military forces throughout the galaxy were mobilizing to prevent further rescues. But Marcus could also see something else in the data streams flowing through his enhanced consciousness. The galaxy was changing. Human colonies were declaring independence and demanding equal representation in galactic government. Alien species were requesting partnerships with human Sentinel teams for projects that had been considered impossible. Most importantly, humans were beginning to explore their own potential in ways that hadn't been seen for centuries. This is bigger than just rescuing imprisoned Sentinels, Marcus realized.
Cathara's smile was fierce with satisfaction. This is the awakening your species has needed for 300 years. You were never meant to accept limitation, Marcus Chen. You were meant to exceed it.
The galaxy's power structure was crumbling as the truth about human potential spread and War Sentinel partnerships resumed. Government officials who had spent decades suppressing human capabilities suddenly found themselves facing populations who remembered what they were truly capable of achieving. But Marcus knew the real change wasn't in government policies or political structures. It was in the way humans were beginning to see themselves not as support personnel or background workers, but as partners in legendary teams capable of handling challenges that entire civilizations couldn't face alone.
What happens after we rescue the remaining Sentinels? Marcus asked. Cathara looked at the star chart showing unexplored regions of space, uncharted territories, and mysteries that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. Then, we show the universe what human Sentinel partnerships were always meant to accomplish.
Marcus felt anticipation building in his enhanced awareness as tactical programs provided him with glimpses of missions that would challenge everything he thought he understood about exploration, engineering, and the very nature of what was possible when humans stopped accepting limitations.
The War Sentinel program hadn't been suppressed because it was dangerous.
It had been suppressed because it was the key to humanity's true potential, a potential that the galaxy was about to rediscover in ways that would reshape the very foundations of interstellar civilization. The awakening had begun, and Marcus Chen, maintenance engineer turned legendary partner, was about to help his species reclaim its rightful place among the stars. 6 months after Marcus Chen freed Cathara from her impossible prison, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The last imprisoned War Sentinel had been liberated 3 weeks earlier, and human Sentinel partnerships were forming at a rate that overwhelmed the processing capabilities of both species. What had begun as a simple rescue operation had evolved into something that was reshaping the very nature of interstellar civilization. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Deep Explorer, a ship that represented everything humanity was becoming. Built by human engineers using War Sentinel technology, crewed by teams that seamlessly blended human innovation with Sentinel capabilities, and designed for missions that pushed the boundaries of what anyone had thought possible. The Deep Explorer was heading toward a region of space that had been considered unreachable for over 1,000 years, the void beyond, where space itself seemed to break down and conventional physics stopped applying. Approaching the boundary layer, reported Navigation Officer Lisa Park, whose partnership with War Sentinel Vexhai of the Star Winds had resulted in navigation techniques that made interstellar travel look simple. Sensors are detecting the reality distortions that turned back the last 12 expeditions. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of approaching an impossible problem. His enhanced senses, augmented by 6 months of integration with War Sentinel technology, analyzed the sensor readings and began identifying patterns that conventional science had missed. The void beyond wasn't just empty space, it was space where the fundamental constants of reality became variable, where the laws of physics shifted according to principles that neither humans nor any known species understood.
Perfect territory for a human Sentinel team. Cathara, are you reading the same patterns I am? Marcus asked.
His partner's response came through their direct neural link, a connection that had developed over months of working together and had become as natural as breathing.
The distortions follow mathematical progressions that suggest artificial origin.
This is not a natural phenomenon, someone or something created this barrier. The Deep Explorer's crew of 43 humans and 12 war sentinels represented the cutting edge of what their partnership could achieve.
Engineers who could solve problems by intuiting solutions that bypassed conventional limitations. Tacticians who planned operations using strategies that seemed impossible until they succeeded. Scientists who made discoveries by asking questions that other species had never thought to consider.
The barrier extends in all directions for approximately 50 light-years, reported Chief Science Officer Dr. Amanda Torres, whose partnership with Sentinel Crixtal the Voidwalker had resulted in breakthroughs in dimensional physics that were revolutionizing galactic understanding of spacetime. But, Marcus is right, there are mathematical patterns in the distortions.
This looks like a containment system.
Marcus accessed the ship's enhanced sensor arrays and felt his consciousness expand as he interfaced directly with instruments that had been designed to complement human Sentinel partnerships. Information flowed through his awareness in patterns that revealed the true nature of what they were facing.
The void beyond wasn't blocking access to empty space.
It was protecting something. There's a civilization inside the barrier, Marcus announced.
The reality distortions are a defensive measure designed to prevent outside contact.
Captain Sarah Kim, who had been promoted from her engineering position on New Horizon to command the Deep Explorer, looked at the tactical displays with growing excitement. A civilization that's been isolated for 1,000 years. They might have developed along completely different technological and cultural lines. Cathera's physical form materialized on the bridge as she shifted out of the sensor interface she had been using to analyze the barrier's structure. The defensive system is impressive, but it was designed to repel conventional exploration attempts.
It may not be able to handle the kind of creative problem-solving that human Sentinel teams specialize in.
Marcus felt tactical programs activating in his enhanced consciousness as he began analyzing the barrier's weaknesses.
The reality distortions were controlled by a network of anchor points that maintained the field's stability. If those anchor points could be identified and neutralized in the correct sequence, the entire barrier would collapse.
But the anchor points were located inside the barrier itself, in the region where physics became unreliable and conventional technology failed.
Reaching them would require capabilities that pushed human Sentinel partnerships to their absolute limits.
I have an approach, Marcus said, feeling certainty build in his enhanced awareness.
But it's going to require techniques we've never tried before.
Captain Kim nodded with the confidence that had made her the obvious choice to command humanity's most advanced exploration vessel.
Let's hear it.
Marcus activated the main display and began outlining a plan that combined human engineering innovation with War Sentinel capabilities in ways that exceeded anything their partnerships had previously attempted. The approach required precise coordination between multiple human Sentinel teams, technological modifications that pushed their equipment beyond design specifications, and a willingness to venture into regions of space where the fundamental nature of reality was uncertain. The barrier is maintained by 6 anchor points arranged in a perfect geometric pattern, Marcus explained.
Each anchor point generates reality distortions that reinforce the others. But, if we can disrupt all 6 simultaneously, the entire system will collapse. Dr. Torres studied the technical requirements with growing amazement. The timing would have to be perfect. We're talking about microsecond precision across light-years of space.
Which is why we need War Sentinel reflexes combined with human problem-solving, Marcus replied. Our partners can provide the speed and precision, while we handle the technical calculations and system modifications. The mission planning took 3 days and resulted in modifications to the Deep Explorer that would have been impossible without human Sentinel cooperation. The ship's systems were enhanced with War Sentinel technology that allowed direct neural interface, while Sentinel capabilities were augmented with human-designed equipment that pushed their natural abilities beyond normal limits. Marcus found himself working directly with Cathera in ways that transcended their individual capabilities. His engineering knowledge merged with her hunting instincts to produce solutions that neither could have conceived alone. The War Sentinel technology that connected them had evolved over months of partnership, becoming something that enhanced both their natures rather than simply adding capabilities. The anchor points are protected by automated defense systems, Cathera reported as they prepared to penetrate the barrier.
Ancient technology, but sophisticated. Someone really didn't want to be disturbed.
Then, we'll have to be very polite guests, Marcus replied, feeling confidence flow through their neural link. The penetration of the void beyond began with techniques that redefined what space exploration could accomplish. Human Sentinel teams phased partially out of normal reality to bypass the defensive systems, while human engineers modified ship systems in real time to accommodate the changing physics inside the barrier. Marcus experienced the mission through enhanced senses that processed information from multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. The space inside the barrier was beautiful and terrifying, filled with structures that defied conventional understanding of physics and engineering. Entire cities floated in vacuum without life support, held together by principles that his enhanced consciousness could perceive but not entirely comprehend. "The civilization inside is definitely still active," reported Navigator Park as they approached the first anchor point. "I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with billions of inhabitants." The anchor points themselves were marvels of engineering that made War Sentinel technology look primitive by comparison. Massive installations that existed partially outside normal spacetime, generating reality fields that could be precisely controlled and modified according to the operator's requirements. They're not just using advanced technology, Marcus realized. They're manipulating the fundamental nature of reality itself. The first anchor point was neutralized through a combination of human ingenuity and War Sentinel precision that exemplified everything their partnerships could achieve. Marcus identified the control systems while Cathara provided the speed and accuracy needed to modify them before automated defenses could respond. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Reality rippled throughout the barrier as the first anchor point went offline, causing the defensive field to fluctuate and reveal glimpses of the civilization inside. "They know we're here," Captain Kim observed as energy signatures throughout the barrier shifted in response to their presence. The remaining anchor points fell in rapid succession as human Sentinel teams demonstrated capabilities that exceeded anything the barrier's designers had anticipated. Each neutralization required different approaches. One team used dimensional phase shifting to bypass the defenses entirely, another team solved the technical challenges through pure engineering brilliance, and a third team combined both approaches in ways that created entirely new techniques for manipulating reality-based technology. When the sixth and final anchor point was neutralized, the barrier collapsed with an effect that could be felt throughout the sector. The void beyond simply ceased to exist, revealing a region of space filled with wonders that challenged every assumption about what was possible. The civilization inside had been isolated for over a millennium, developing along technological and cultural lines that diverged dramatically from the rest of the galaxy. They called themselves the Architects, and their mastery of reality manipulation had allowed them to create a society that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. But what Marcus found most remarkable was their reaction to the human Sentinel teams. The Architects had been waiting for exactly the kind of partnership that humans and War Sentinels represented, beings who could bridge the gap between different approaches to understanding and manipulating reality. "Your species possesses qualities we have been seeking," explained Architect Prime Resonance during their first contact meeting. "The ability to innovate beyond conventional limitations, combined with instinctive understanding of harmony and balance. We isolated ourselves because we feared contamination of our development, but we have reached the limits of what we can achieve alone." Marcus felt amazement flow through his enhanced consciousness as he realized the full implications of what they had discovered. The Architects weren't just another advanced civilization, they were potential partners in projects that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. "What kind of projects?" Captain Kim asked. The Architect's response opened possibilities that exceeded even the expanded horizons that human Sentinel partnerships had already revealed. Exploration of parallel realities, manipulation of fundamental forces, construction of technologies that could solve problems on a galactic scale. "We have been developing capabilities to address threats that exist beyond conventional spacetime," Architect Prime Resonance explained. "Entities that consume realities, forces that destabilize the foundations of existence itself. But our approaches require partnerships that can bridge different methods of perceiving and manipulating reality." Marcus looked at Cathara and felt their shared understanding through the neural link that connected them. The War Sentinel program hadn't just been about reclaiming humanity's heritage, it had been about preparing for challenges that would require capabilities beyond anything any single species could achieve. "How many realities are we talking about?" Marcus asked. The Architect's response revealed the true scope of what they were facing. The galaxy that Marcus had grown up in was only one layer of a multidimensional structure that contained countless parallel realities, each facing threats that could destroy entire universes if left unchallenged. The entities we face consume not just civilizations, but the very foundations of reality itself, architect Prime Resonance explained. They have already destroyed 17 parallel versions of this galaxy. We estimate that our reality has perhaps 50 years before they breach our dimensional barriers. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of approaching an impossible problem, but this time the stakes were literally universal. The skills he had developed as a maintenance engineer, enhanced by War Sentinel partnership and, now augmented by contact with the architects, were about to be tested against challenges that threatened the existence of reality itself. "Then, I guess we'd better get to work," Marcus said.
Cathera's smile was fierce with anticipation.
"Now you truly understand what War Sentinel partnerships were meant to accomplish, Marcus Chen. We do not simply explore new frontiers, we protect the very foundations of existence itself." The Deep Explorer began its return journey to human space, but Marcus knew their real mission was just beginning. Humanity had reclaimed its heritage as partners to legendary warriors, but that heritage came with responsibilities that extended far beyond any single galaxy. The universe was vast, full of wonders and terrors that challenged the very nature of what was possible. But Marcus Chen, former maintenance engineer turned legendary partner, was ready to face those challenges alongside beings who shared humanity's refusal to accept limitations. After all, someone had to fix the problems that threatened to break reality itself. And humans, Marcus had learned, were very good at fixing things that others considered impossible to repair.